Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Coley, and welcome to Seen on the Screen, brought to you by Make It Universal and Rotten Tomatoes, where we talk movies with some of the people behind the scenes at NBCUniversal. When entertainment works best, it opens a window into a world we've never imagined. It can show us a mirror image of our lives and offer us a heightened sense of home. My guest today is Deva Renzi. Hi, Deva. Deva, welcome to Seen on Screen. I'm so excited to chat with you, but I think the first question everyone wants to know, tell me about yourself and why you work at Universal.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. So as you mentioned, my name is Deva Renzi. I am SVP of Strategy and Operations for our global distribution team, reporting into Peter Levinson, who is chairman of global distribution for the newly formed NBCUniversal Studio Group. At the highest level, I'd say what I do is really focus on our distribution strategy for our film and TV content. When we have a piece of content, particularly film content, right, we want to be thoughtful about how we optimize the value of that content across what we define as windows. And so a traditional release window for a piece of film content typically starts with the theatrical window, right? An exclusive theatrical window. It then moves into a home entertainment window, which is when consumers are able to, for the first time, buy or rent that content in the home. And then that final window is what we call sort of that TV licensing window. And it goes to a whole host of partners on both the pay TV side, SVOD platforms, free and basic.
I love that because I also am always like clicking on, it's like, when is it going to be on Fandango at home? When is it going to be on Peacock? So that way I can watch it with more people. So I really love that you guys are so strategic about where that goes. I think this is a great concept, this whole idea of us getting to talk to the employees, especially because we're going to really take your philosophies and sort of apply it to the things that you love and what you do. So I have a little great popcorn bucket over here.
I love.
It's a popcorn bucket full of questions and secrets, but they're all about you, and they're based off of some of your quotes. No self-respecting dog fetches anything unless he's good and feels like it. What's this one from?
Fievel Goes West.
Oh, tell me about Fievel Goes West and your connection to it.
You know, this movie is particularly important to me because, you know, when so I'm not from here. I was born in Kabul, Afghanistan. I moved to the States when I was a little over 4.5 with my family, not obviously knowing the language. And in Afghanistan, we didn't really have access to TV on a regular basis. And when we moved here, we had our first sort of television set, and just the volume of content and the ability to just regularly be able to, you know, see things on a TV screen on subject matters that, you know, you're not necessarily exposed to on a regular basis was so just exciting. And I remember Fievel being one of the first movies that my older brother and I watched. And my parents wanted us to watch TV. I mean, it served like a practical purpose because it allowed us to sort of learn the language and constantly be immersed in language that wasn't our sort of native language. And I just remember feeling so connected to the character of Fievel. And I didn't know why back then. I have the benefit of hindsight now as an adult where I can draw parallels to this sort of immigrant mouse family that moves to the U.S. in pursuit of like the American dream. And I felt such a connection to that. And I intuitively, I think, felt a connection to that even at a young age, despite not necessarily like understanding all the dialogue. And I think the beauty of that film, if you've ever seen it, is that it is very chaotic in its plot line.
Yes.
And it is a very high energy film. And so just with the animation alone, you can kind of get a sense of what's going on. You don't necessarily need the language, right? I guess that's the beauty of like animated content in general, right? It is able to draw in these like young audiences who may not have mastery of language, but can through the visuals kind of track where the story's going. And so to this day, it like continues to be one of my favorites. I actually have a poster of it in my office.
Oh, I love that.
Because I just love it so much and it brings like such good memories for me.
I mean, and it's like the quintessential immigrant's tale, too.
Totally.
I mean, could you think back then, or when did you sort of make that connection where this was not just a movie you loved, but a movie that you realized was telling your story?
I came across like a VHS version of Fievel, and I was like, oh, like I haven't seen this movie in a really long time. And so I tried to find like a version of it. I found one on YouTube, like the full length, and I tried to get like my 5.5-year-old to watch it. He wasn't having it. But then I was like, oh wait, like there is so much parallel to who Fievel was and his story and his family's story. That again, like I think I just intuitively knew that at a young age. Like he felt different, right? You have this cat family, this mice family that try to like assimilate, right, and find a safe community, right? And I felt that so much too, like that element of safety. Like we were fleeing Afghanistan for a reason, right? It was an unsafe environment, and I think, again, like I just sensed that when I was watching the film as a 5-year-old or 4.5-year-old, that, there's a similarity here. Yeah. But the depth of the similarity, I don't think I processed until much later when I revisited it.
I love that. And that's the power of seeing movies multiple times. Here's another one from The Power of Cinema. If you can steal an idea, why can't you plant one there instead? Oh, I love this one.
I mean, yeah, Inception, Christopher Nolan. And I feel like so many people say this, but he's one of my all-time favorite directors. I think, coming off the heels of what you just talked about, where old movies are bubbling up into the zeitgeist, yes, you have the benefit of like social media. And I think the counter and the challenge of that is with social media and just content being around all the time, your attention spans are so much smaller than they used to be. I mean, I suffer from that quite a bit. And so something so refreshing about his style for me is that, he is very ambiguous in how he directs and the content that he creates, and he really leans on the audiences to make inferences about what's going on, and to connect the dots, right? He gives them enough intellectual credit to figure things out. And so Inception is like one of my all-time favorites because it's so, you could take it at face value and see it as, an atypical heist film, or you can see it as a film about this man struggling with like guilt and loss. And then you add the layer of like, whose perspective is it, right? Yeah. Is it Cobb's? Is it Mal's? Like you just could look at that movie 5 times and walk away with a different ending, right? And so it's just something unique to the way he directs, and he can take these like expansive and massive ideas of, space or, nuclear revolution and like make it feel really intimate. And so I think he's like, his movies just like are escapism in its purest form.
I do love the fact that Universal is one of the few places that Christopher Nolan had made a movie outside of Warner Brothers. And so when he came back with Oppenheimer, it was like this great sort of homecoming, because I think there was nobody more excited than the Universal employees that this guy was going to be a part of the family. I mean, we just got Oppenheimer on Peacock, and I've like noticed it. Like people are like, the idea that you didn't see the movie already, but there are still people finding it. And I love that can have that sort of like second life there too. It's kind of an incredible moment.
I totally agree.
I want to ask you one more question about Inception, because I particularly remember with that one, it's an ensemble piece. But if you just look at the movie from just say the perspective of like Leo's character, or maybe you're looking at the movie from Michael Caine's character, or even Elliot Page's character, what is really interesting is it's still about their emotions with this sort of lofty thing. And that's what I really think about when I first watched it. What's the thing that you took away from it the first time you watched it, besides the fact that it was brilliant cinema?
I think the thing that I probably took away the most out of it was, one, just connecting not necessarily Leonardo DiCaprio's character, but, the almost like pain that he's in throughout the entire film. It was like the first thing that I noticed in the story. Like he meets Mal, I think, in like one of the opening scenes, and you start to question like, what is this sort of dynamic? And you kind of see that play out through the entire film. And it was sort of like this unexpected element that I went into the film honestly really naive. I thought it was just going to be like, I love sort of, action thriller, particularly spy genre type films. And I thought that this was going to be that type of a movie, not really having much exposure experience to like, Nolan's entire filmography. And so I got something very different out of the movie, that initial viewing, that I just wasn't anticipating going in. And again, going back to sort of like the Leonardo DiCaprio character, there's just a lot more complexity to who he was. And, you know, that ending scene where you're like, is the totem falling down? Like, is it spinning? Is he in a dream state? Did he get his happy ending? Or is he just, you know, in limbo? Like, that really left me pondering.
It's so interesting, too, because I think it plays very differently by parents. I saw it with a couple of my friends who are parents, and looking back on that. Is there a movie that you watched after you became a parent that you looked at really differently if you watched it before? Like the whole resonance or emotions with it?
Yeah, Life is Beautiful.
Really?
I saw that for the first time. Gosh, I must have been like 12 years old. And we went on a class trip. Had no idea what the movie was about. It was subtitled. And I remember being emotional watching it just because it's such a heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching movie. And, you know, despite this horrific environment that this family is in Nazi Germany, and you see this almost playfulness that this father brings to the camps that they're in, the concentration camps that they're in. And I watched it, gosh, I think a year ago. And now I'm being a mom of two like young kids. And the movie destroyed me in a way that it didn't the first time I watched it. Having the hindsight of being a parent and knowing that, you know, you want to protect your kids from, you know, any sort of heartache or pain. And just the beauty in the love that this man has for his family and his child. It is just one of like my favorite films of all time. One of the most impactful, and if possible, I love it more now, having the benefit in hindsight of being a parent and seeing the lengths that someone will go to protect their family and to protect their kin.
So powerful. I'm just thinking about that last scene with the gunfire.
Yeah.
It gets me every time.
Yeah.
All right. So we're done with the quotes.
Okay.
I hope it wasn't too painful.
No.
It was good. Perfect marks on this one. We're actually going to move on to a bit more on the trivia side.
Okay.
Asking a few questions about maybe some bits from films that are special to you and maybe why they're special to you. So moving on to my other popcorn bucket.
Okay.
So I'm going to read you a statement about something that I know that you've seen on screen, and I want you to tell me, is this true or false? In 1994, the film Forrest Gump, with every transition of Forrest's age, one thing remains the same. In the first scene of each transition, he wears a red plaid shirt. True or false?
I'm going to say false because I think it's different blue plaid shirts.
That's exactly. This is a trick question, too.
That
did not slip you off. Tell me about your connection with Forrest Gump. This is a lot of people have a connection with that film.
More so like the character of Forrest Gump, just because it's a different version of like an underdog kind of story. And I remember watching that for the first time with my mom. And there was just such a kind-heartedness to him. And you got to see his journey through all these like insane moments in American history, which candidly was a bit of like an education lesson for both like my mom and I. But also just, you walked away from the movie, at least I did, feeling like, okay, anything is possible. It kind of is a continuation of that, Fievel Goes West thematic of like the American dream, slightly different tilt, but almost like a thematic of, here's an individual, the odds are stacked against him, and he's able to make an impact and a mark on this world.
Yeah.
And, come to the world, viewing people in the best light possible, right? And that's such a unique and innocent thing. And in a world today where, it feels like people don't necessarily always look out for one another and there isn't that authenticity and kind-heartedness, I don't know. He's just an endearing character and a movie character that I always just have a special place for.
I think a lot of people do. Also, I love hearing Tom Hanks slip into that accent. It's so great.
I know.
It's so great. Okay, another bit of diva trivia. So in the finale of Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt and Sean Ambrose are fighting. There's that scene where he's got the knife and he's trying to push it into his eye. Apparently, Tom Cruise, during the production, insisted that they use a real knife a 1/4 inch from his eye. Is this true or false?
Well, I mean, I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan, and I know he prides himself on doing a lot of his own stunts. So I'm going to say that's very true.
I really wish this was false because this seems so dangerous. But no, it's true. And John Woo was like, yeah, I'll choreograph it because I'm insane. This is real. He's going to lose a limb. I'm
at some point. Yeah,
I don't want it to happen. And I think that if there's anyone who could beat the hands of physics more, it's Tom Cruise. But that's dangerous, don't you think?
Totally. What kind of insurance policy do they have on Tom Cruise? Is he insurable? Because the last thing you want is him losing a limb or, God forbid, an eye.
Matt Damon tells a story about how when he was getting ready for the last Mission Impossible, he was getting ready for a stunt. And he's just like, yeah, I told him I wanted to hang off of a plane. And the safety guy was like, no, you can't do it. And he's like, so I got a new safety guy.
I think just got to push the envelope
I think
a little
it's probably
bit.
The same thing with the insurance. I think they find the insurance guy that's going to be like, I mean, he's going to do this or he's going to die trying. So we might as well figure out how to make it
Do you think Matt Damon's self-conscious when he's done The Bourne and he knows that Tom Cruise does his own stunts and is
I think Matt Damon is like, this dude's insane.
Yeah.
Because I think that's
that
what most
feels right.
But he appreciates it. But no, I think Matt Damon is thinking about let me keep my body safe so I can do Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Now we're going to take a peek inside our Universal Globe. There's some movie titles inside of here, if you're going to go ahead and take that you've probably seen on screen. Your job is to pick the name of a title and give me clues, 3 words, so I can guess the name of it and see how many I can get within a minute. So you just describe it to me in 3 words and I guess.
Okay. Yellow, a bunch of them, animated.
Minions.
Correct. Dinosaurs.
Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Oh, that's a good one.
Vehicles.
Fast and Furious.
Yep. Action. Matt Damon.
Bourne.
Yep.
Identity or Supremacy or wherever he wants to be.
Jordan Peele.
Get Out.
Yep. Holiday movie.
Holiday movie. The Holiday?
No. Oh my God, what's the actor now? I'm blanking on the actors in this movie. It's really well known. It's old. Keira Knightley's in it.
Keira Knightley is in a Christmas movie. Pride and Prejudice?
No, it's one of the most famous.
Oh, Love Actually.
Yes.
Love Actually.
Sorry, that was really bad.
I was like,
bad.
what?
Nancy Meyer, Meryl Streep.
Oh, it's complicated.
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry, I did get. I was like the Grinch.
No, I couldn't. that was really bad. I couldn't think of a single.
Yeah, no. Here we go. Thank you so much. This was actually fun, and I did better than I thought. Thank you so much for playing along. I think we both did credibly well when we were put on the hot seat. So I appreciate you. You were a great host as well. Pat Sajak, look out.
I mean, if anyone's hiring, I'm here.
I love it. We talked about you. We talked about movies, but let's talk about the journey to bring you into the world of movie making. What was it about working here that really intrigued you?
Yeah, I wish I could say that I knew from the moment I was 10 that I wanted to work in the movie industry. And I think the reality is not many people are at that calculated in terms of what their career trajectory is or what their decisions are. But yeah, I worked in sort of private equity for 7 years and left liking the work, but a little bit unfulfilled just because I wasn't an end user of a lot of the products that were being created. And when I moved to Los Angeles, it was almost 10 years ago now, the city is entertainment, right? I mean, it is akin to sort of what New York is for finance or law, right? And it emanates from every billboard you see to everyone you interact with. And so that kind of put an initial spark. I never aspired to work in the content industry and didn't really even know how the skill set would be transferable, right? I was like, oh, I know how to financial model and build presentations. I don't know how that would necessarily lend itself into, working within the movie industry. That was my own naivete, right? As I start to sort of do my own diligence and research, I started to, come across opportunities. There was one particularly within sort of the brand development business, which was in its infancy when I joined in 2016, which seemed really interesting. And I went into, my next phase in my career knowing that whatever I do, irrespective of what it is, I need to be an end user of that product. I need to have a connection to it. I need it to feel sort of intuitive to who I am and have it be a part of my life. To feel passionate about it, right? We all want to be passionate and show up for work and be motivated. And what better way than to subscribe or be a champion of the thing that it is that you're creating, right? And so that's really what brought me to Universal, and candidly is what's kept me here. And my role within the company has shifted a bit. I mentioned I joined Pete Levinson's organization over a year ago now on the distribution side. But that passion, that excitement for the content that we make, that sort of continued awe for, wow, like you get to be a part of this universe, I guess, no pun intended, is just really, magical. I think there's a magic to filmmaking. There's an escapism here. And you find that, irrespective of what your background is, whether you're, in marketing or finance or, you're a content creator, right? There's a home and there's a world for you here. And you can find, a place where you can just contribute, which has been the most exciting part of the journey here. Again, it's what's kept me here, right?
Oh, I love that. And I love that you were able to take that journey to find something, like you said, because we're all end users of Universal Pictures. We're all watching them. We're all going to the parks. We're all trying to be a part of this incredible community. Deva, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing yourself and for spending your time with us today.
Of course. Happy to be here.